Someone says they don't want a fuss. It's often said with love. They don't want anyone to be burdened. But we've learned through many heartfelt conversations that sometimes no fanfare can be mistaken for no farewell. And that can leave a silence that's difficult to process.
Be 100% sure on the facts of it. It is completely soulless. There is no interaction, there is no help, there is no advice. It's sort of a do-it-yourself job, and there's nothing afterwards either. So, you know, unless you know what you're doing, it's a really difficult process to go through.
Direct cremation may sound simple, and for some it is the right choice, but without support it can feel lonely. When there's no space for goodbye, the grief can linger.
I would suggest, you know, if you want to go for cremation, being no fuss doesn't mean nothing. Being no fuss doesn't mean, you know, your loved one's taken away and the next time you see him, he's just in a box. It really is a horrible, horrible thing to see when your brother-in-law comes in and goes, well, here's his dad, because he didn't know what else to say, he didn't know what else to do, he didn't know where to put him, we didn't know what to do with him either. And that's a horrible thought that, you know, it was a horrible process to know that he just arrived and there was nothing.
These stories don't come from people who made the wrong choice. They come from families who just don't know what was missing until it was too late. The goodbye didn't happen and grief had nowhere to go.
It was quite final. There was no goodbye, there was no anything, there was no support. And it's really difficult to then try and process that and move through. You know, certainly if you want your loved one to be cremated, I'm not against cremation at all. But I do think that you need somebody there to support you who's gone through the grieving process, who can offer you that help and advice and support, who can explain to you the 7 stages of grief. I mean, I had to Google them when my children were going through them so that I'd got a better understanding. You know, who sits there and Googles their own children's grief over the grandfather? It's a horrible, horrible thing to have to do.
Grief doesn't come with a manual, but no one should have to go through it alone. At G-Cellar, our service doesn't finish on the day of the funeral. We walk with you afterwards with a complete one-to-one bereavement support service.
The personal touch was missing, and I think the personal touch is needed every step of the way, however you decide to do it. And like I say, no fanfare doesn't mean nothing. It just probably means they don't want a horse-drawn carriage and they don't want, you know, you to spend £10,000 burying them in some fanfare. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be celebrating the life. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be saying goodbye. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be thinking of them and what they would enjoy doing and putting something into place. So you've got that finality so that you can move forwards.
That's why we've created the Barsby Service Chapel, a peaceful space where families can say goodbye in their own way. No pressure, no performance, just time, comfort and care. Because no fanfare doesn't mean nothing. It simply means something quiet and meaningful and true to the person you loved.